I want A.R. Rahman in this film because there's nobody who can score the soundtrack that I'm envisaging like he can. He wanted to play me something and I felt he was a bit nervous. Most wars are selfish. This is in many ways an unselfish war.
Tracking milestones of an incredible journey spanning 30 years. Rahman Music Sheets. Hi friends, how about finding a top take, a wow factor in this episode? Do watch it till the end to grab this harmonic moment of the day. Released in 2023. Produced by Ronnie Screwvala and Siddharth Roy Kapoor. Pippa is a screen adaptation of Brigadier Balram Singh Mehta's memoirs, The Burning Chaffies. This biographical war film revolves around 3 siblings. Major Ram Mehta goes to East Pakistan to train and lead Mukti Bahini, a guerrilla resistance movement during the Bangladesh Liberation War. His younger brother Balram Singh Mehta fights on the Eastern Front. Their sister Radha Mehta gets recruited as cryptographer to decode enemy messages. Pippa represents a chapter of 1971 Indo-Pak war that resulted in creation of Bangladesh.
Raja, my first question, why Rahman for Pippa?
Okay, so it's been a dream always to like, I think it's a dream of most filmmakers to be able to work with AR and tap into his genius. But for me, while we were thinking about the film, everyone was talking about, okay, we're making a big film. Do we need a big star? Do we need this? And I said, you know what? I don't want the big star and all that. But what I want really is, I would love it if we could try and get A.R. Rahman to score the film. And so Sid said, okay, let me talk to him. And he said, so but what? But it's a war film, songs. I said, to me honestly, I don't really care about the songs. I know if we need songs, he'll make great songs. I want A.R. Rahman in this film because there's nobody who can score the soundtrack that I'm envisaging like he can. He has this wonderful ability to score these very emotional epic pieces, which is a mix of kind of Western but with all the Indian elements, and I'd love to attempt that. And so I got on a call with AR, and we got speaking, and it was a long call, and I spoke about what I said, and at the end of all this he said, what I really like about it, Raja, is the fact that there are 3 siblings in the film, and we're talking about India, Pakistan and Bangladesh, and I'm already seeing in my mind these connections. I was blown away because he was already making these musical connections in his head just from a narration on the phone.
We fight like soldiers, we kill like soldiers, and we die like soldiers. Is that clear? Yes, sir!
And I just knew that, I could not have asked for anyone better to score this film as I was envisaging it, or as my vision was. It was an eye-opening experience for me at the very least. I mean, it's tremendous experience, tremendous man, tremendous musician. I could speak for hours on him.
अगर कोई हमारे गिरेबान पकड़कर हमें धमकाएगा तो हम उसे मुंह तोड़ जवाब देंगे.
Your first interaction with Mr. Rahman was on phone, but when you met him for the first time, were you nervous, anxious?
When you meet somebody who you've read about and heard so much and lived with, and who's part of my, his music is something I listen to all the time, especially a lot of his Tamil songs, and of course all the Hindi and the international, everything that he does. You build up this kind of anxiety inside you when you're going to meet somebody like that. I was told that Rahman Saab works in the night. I'm not much of a night guy, so I had all these anxieties, right? I flew down to Chennai, and we met him in his studio, And it started off, we were supposed to meet at 7, and then became 8, and then became 9, and then became 10, and I was like, okay, man, I'm really now getting, I'm worried about how this is going to go. And then we meet, and I kid you not, I mean, in 2 minutes, he melted any insecurities that I had about dealing with a maestro or dealing with a man of such. He just took all of that away, stripped it down in no time. We got talking as two creative people trying to find solutions, trying to find a medium, trying to find expression. And I forgot I was there with this genius, Oscar-winning, personality. He took it away. Then he said, okay, let me kind of play you something. And that was the most beautiful moment for me of our entire experience, I think, at that point, at least one of the highlights. He wanted to play me something, and I felt he was a bit nervous, just like I would be, right, if I were playing something for him. He kind of started off by explaining to me and saying, it's not fully mixed, it's not done this. And I was like, oh my God, Rahman is standing here playing a song that he has made, and he has the same caveats before he plays it to me. He has all these caveats that he has, and I have not done this. Exactly what I would imagine, like it's the first time he's playing something for someone, and it's not, this man. So the humbleness of AR is something that I think we all should learn from, and that's his greatness, that's his genius. He just wants to get it right, and he's wonderful taking feedback, and at the same time has his very strong opinions on what he's doing. So truly, that first experience for me kind of was like a game changer. It just changed our equation. We became colleagues. We became two artists trying to work together, and from there on, it was just that.
After World War II, in the early 1950s, USSR introduced floating tanks PT-76. Besides inducting them in the Soviet Army, they were exported to friendly nations including India. These amphibious tanks float on water like an empty tin. Indian soldiers called them Pippa.
Pippa is a very unusual title. It doesn't say much about the film unless you see at least the poster. How did you go about it?
So I'll give you a very interesting story. Many years ago, I was making a film called Barah, Aana, which had Naseeruddin Shah and Vijay Raz and Tanishtan. And I happened at that point in time, I used to play tennis with Gulzar Saab, So I kind of cornered him and said, Gulzar Saab, you have to hear my story. I'm going to make a film and I want your advice. So poor Gulzar Saab had no choice. He was playing tennis with me, so he invited me home and he heard my story. And at the end of the story, he gave me two pieces of advice. And the first one I asked him was, I said, what do you think? Is it going to be a great film? He said, I don't know. He said, I think it's a nice story, but you're going to make the film. After you make the film, I'll tell you whether it's a good film or not. And that's when I realized the difference between what's on the page and what you bring as a filmmaker. And secondly, at that point, I was calling the film Barah, Aana, Zindagi. And he said, why are you answering the question? And I said, what do you mean? He said, call it Barah, Aana, don't call it Zindagi. Let somebody ask you what Barah, Aana means, and you can explain to them what that means. And so from then on, I've always tried to make titles that make an audience ask you what it means. And so Pippa came naturally from there. The idea of a tank that can float, which is amphibious, and the 14th Punjab, who was traveling, the infantry unit that was traveling with the 45 cavalry, the 14th Punjab had all these sardars, and they looked at this tank and they were in shock when it was going in the water, and they felt it reminded them of the Ghee, the Dabba, which is what they call a Pippa, and then it got modified from Pippa into Pippa. So I thought when you're making a film about war, the main hero of this film for me was that amphibious tank, because that tank actually played a very, very important seminal role in us reaching Dhaka at the pace at which we reached, because Bangladesh being riverine, it would have meant building pontoon bridges and moving forward, and it was a large part of what the West Pakistani army was planning as their defenses. What makes a film connect with people are the emotions of that film, and to humanize that tank, I thought was very important.
पिप्पा किस दिन काम आएगा अगर हमें ब्रिज के ऊपर से जाना पड़े?
But the beauty of it was, we were doing the last shot of the film when the tank goes in the water and is driving across towards the climax of the film and it's swimming in the water. And I wanted the tank to kind of hit its maximum speed. And as it was going through, I started seeing black smoke come out of it, and it got really scary. We thought it's going to, maybe sink or it's going to stop. And somehow I cut the shot. As soon as I got it, the tank turns around, comes back, manages to get on land and shuts down, never to start again.
ये लड़ाई सिर्फ पाकिस्तान को हराने की लड़ाई नहीं, बल्कि ईस्ट पाकिस्तान के 6 करोड़ लोगों को उनकी आजादी दिलवाने की लड़ाई है.
War, combat scenes, and patriotic fervor enthrall audiences.
ये तो हमला है सर.
Haqeeqat, released in 1964, was based on Indo-China War of 1962.
दिवाली मुबारक.
होके मजबूर मुझे उसने भुलाया होगा, होके मजबूर मुझे.
Its director Chetan Anand returned with Hindustan Ki Kasam in 1973, focusing on the Indian Air Force during the Indo-Pak War of 1971. Border by J.P. Datta is considered an epic masterpiece, showcasing the heroism and sacrifice of soldiers during the 1971 Indo-Pak War. Border, along with its soul-stirring music, has become an all-time blockbuster.
Raja, films like Hindustan Ki Kasam and Border were populist. They had a certain amount of bravado, jingoistic approach, celebrating war and victory. But you took a very different approach. Why was that?
I think for me, Jingoism has never really played a part of real war. Jingoism is something that is constructed around a war by other people. Nobody wins in war. In the end, I think that everyone loses. You lose friends, you lose family, you lose brothers, siblings, parents, and there is no real victory in war, but there is sometimes a need for war. So to me, to even tap into the Jingoism involved and making it a rah-rah victory, I felt would be wrong and unjust to the army and the country and the greatness of what we did. I grew up hearing about this story about how, we walked into Bangladesh, there was a genocide going on, Mrs. Gandhi went around the world trying to garner support, she couldn't, and finally we had to send the army in after a long wait, and the best and the most important part for me of that story was that a 13-day war ended and we came back as we brought our military back, we brought our army back and allowed the Bangladesh, the Mukti Bahini and the Bangladeshi intellectuals there and the politicians to set up their own government and their own country. I don't think it has happened before. I don't see it happening in the present day. I think, most wars are selfish. This is in many ways an unselfish war.
मैं भारत की प्रधानमंत्री इंदिरा गांधी पाकिस्तान के साथ जंग का ऐलान करती हूँ. जय हिंद.
Professional armies fight professionally. They go out to do a job as much as a filmmaker goes out to make a film. I try to avoid in all of my my stories, even in the past when I made Airlift, it was the same thing. It is about being proud of what your country has done or what you have done, as against being proud of bashing somebody else.
Why Ishaan Khatter? Do you think he looks like an Indian Army soldier from any angle?
You know, I had a very interesting meeting actually. The first time I went out when I was researching the project in Bombay, I went to the army base in Kolaba, and I went around and I looked around at how they live and what happens and how young people are and all the rest of it. And then I met this commanding officer, and we had chai together, and he said, "Yeah, you guys are all great, and it's very exciting that Bollywood is doing all this, but now you're going to cast somebody who's 45 years old as a captain. If at 45 you're a captain, you must be the worst captain the Indian Army has ever seen." So he said that it is not possible for you to be a captain at 45. So please, just try and keep that in mind, and it kind of resonated with me. Actually, you need to be quite lithe and athletic to be in a tank. It's an extraordinarily small space. It's a small space. You can't be a big muscular guy. It's not possible. So Ishaan fit all the bills for me.
Harish, reverse right, reverse right, on and fire now, fire now.
He really from getting the salute right to getting his posture to how you stand in a tank. There's a sequence in the tank when we have the tanks going through this really bad terrain. And if you watch Ishaan in that, he's rock steady, not holding a thing. And he practiced it. This doesn't happen easily. He practiced it because the first thing we were told when we went there is, this is your horse. Every you and yaw and he and haw of this horse. You know how it goes. You don't need to be holding anything. That's when you become one with this machine,
Pippa was being shot. Besides roping in the Budapest and Firdaus Orchestra, Rahman didn't leave any stone unturned to score Pippa's music. Little did he expect that his adaptation of a song by the national poet of Bangladesh, Qazi Nazrul Islam, will attract criticism. With more details on that, in our next episode, Raja Krishna Menon will be back. Stay with us.
There are 3 siblings in the film, and we're talking about India, Pakistan and Bangladesh, and I'm already seeing in my mind these connections. I was blown away because he was already making these musical connections in his head just from a narration on the phone.
Do you agree that this indeed was the moment of the day? Is your choice different? Whatever your mind says, write it in the comments section below. We will be waiting. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, press the bell icon and stay entertained.